Hey, how's it going? In this video, I want to talk about an idea of how you could think when people be flexing, right? And this is really more about like flexing that has to do with like monetary stuff, which I think was a bigger deal in your 20s, right? I remember probably from your early 20s, right when you get your job, all the way to like your late 20s, maybe into early 30s as well. A lot of people be flexing on, how much money they have, right? And that, is a normal thing. I'm not going to criticize that. I think in your 30s though, you start flexing on different things, right? Like I think right now a big flex is like, oh, I cook at home every day now, or I go to the gym regularly, or I slept for 8 hours last night. That's like the flex now, right? But back in your 20s, what happens is like people spend a lot of money, they buy expensive stuff, they post on Instagram, and the problem that happens, I don't know if it's a problem, but an after effect of what happens is like people will see that and they start feeling bad about it, right? It's like, oh, this guy's able to spend X dollars on Y item. I don't really have that money to spend on the Y item. Like he must be doing really well. I'm not be doing well. I feel bad about myself, right? And that's typically what happens. And I want to offer you a different way of thinking about things, right? The way I typically think about it is like whenever someone buys something, they by definition have less money than they did before when they bought it, right? You're missing out on the opportunity cost of that cash. You also have less money now. Whatever you just bought probably is not going to be worth that much money in cash, right? It's probably a depreciating asset, especially if it's like a car or something like that, or even jewelry. So by definition, this person has less money than he did before. So that's typically how you think about it. You don't really know anyone's finances either, so they could have saved up for that. It could be a big chunk of whatever they had. Everyone values things differently as well, so maybe they're willing to spend money on that because they like that thing more, and maybe you're not because you don't really care too much about that thing. So that's the way I think about it. Whenever someone spends money, they have less money by definition. So that is literally the definition of spending money. So that's how you should think about it. It's not that I can spend money on this, I have so much money to spend on it. No, it's I spend money on this, now I have less money. Hope that makes sense. Hope that helps. And even like, okay, so let's say back in the day when these tech companies were raising all this money and like they're spending money on like fucking Kind bars and Quest bars and coconut water in the lobby, right? That money is coming from somewhere. Money is limited. So that's a burn. They're burning cash, right? Free lunch, they're burning cash, right? Does that mean they're making the money back? Not necessarily, right? And you see a lot of tech companies going out of business because they didn't really manage their finances well. Their runway was too short, etc. So it doesn't. It's not just for people. It works on large scales as well. Money is finite. Just because someone spends a lot of money on something doesn't mean that they have a bunch of money behind it, right? And that kind of got me thinking about a couple things. Like I see some videos of like rappers or whatever. They're dropping like hundreds of $1,000s on jewelry, and that doesn't really make that much sense to me. And here's my thought process. Okay. So let's say you're a rapper, or let's say you're making a bunch of money, right? And you buy something that's worth like 200 grand on a piece of jewelry, which is insane, right? Literally insane. But the idea is like all the fans are like, oh yeah, they're so rich they can spend money on that, and I'm sure a lot of them are. But let's say, for example, you just bought this jewelry that was like 2% of your net worth. And I try to choose a small number, right? But if it was like 10%, it's like you're just dumb. You shouldn't be spending 10% of your net worth on piece of jewelry. But let's say it's 2%. That means you have $10 million, right, of net worth, which is very hard to accumulate because you have to pay taxes and whatever your expenses and all that other stuff. So by definition, I think in America, at 1%, you're at 11 million net worth, right? At top 0.5, you're at 17. At top 0.1, you're at 43 million. So there aren't that many people that are able to spend that amount of money like that. And $200,000 on jewelry sounds like a lot, but I see much higher numbers out there, like, right? So this money is getting essentially wasted, right? And it's not really like, so I don't know how many people are actually able to afford this comfortably. So whenever you see someone spend a bunch of money like that, you don't really know their finances, right? They're probably cutting back somewhere else, or they're not managing their money well. And that's why a lot of rich people, like lottery winners or whatever, they go broke because they don't manage their money well. This is another way to think about it. I hope this helps. See you next video.